I grew up, as well as my peers, under the umbrella of the ICPD Program of Action and the MDGs. I was probably one of the first generations to live under this development agenda. So I cannot say much on the situation before ICPD and MDGs were conducted. But I can say this, for as long as I have lived, I have seen a great many things have happened in forwarding sexual and reproductive health. We now have the largest generation of young people living today. More than half of them are living in the Asia-Pacific region. This is a result of the advances in maternal and natal health, the eradication and near eradication of preventable diseases, and a sustained, if not inequitable and uninclusive economic growth. The last 20 years was not for nothing. However, sexual and reproductive health and rights have only gained a sustained interest with the global community within the last 20 years. This is in part because of advocates like our first two speakers, and because of you, our volunteers, our advocates in the region. We've grown to recognize and protect women's rights, rights of sexual minorities, and that of the girl child. Before that, development goals were based on economic growth as the engine behind forwarding human rights. This paradigm has shifted in my lifetime. With the ICPD Plan of Action and MDGs, we've raised rights-based programming, the quintessence of the promise of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. But it wasn't easy. We've met opposition, apathy, institutional bureaucracy, temperamental climates, and even entire countries. Convincing governments and civil society organizations is not an easy task. But imagine yourself instead not as a member of parliament, not as the head of a large NGO, but as a young person, an ordinary, average, young person. And you're tasked with saving the world. You have no superpowers as much as we want. You cannot fly faster than a speeding bullet. You cannot run faster than a locomotive. You cannot shoot web slings from your fingertips or grow to the size of a giant. You are ordinary. All you have are your friends and an internet connection. As a young person, these are the challenges you face. You will be denied access to sexual and reproductive health and rights, information and services. In fact, if you're young enough, they won't even let you go inside the clinic. You will be denied contraception, even if you know how to use it. And if your parents find out you're using contraception, oh boy, are you going to get a lecture. You will be forced into marriage before you are ready and without your consent. You will migrate for bad reasons, because you are poor, because your community is poor, because you cannot find a job, because you do not have skills, because you did not finish your education. And if you're a girl child, you will be denied abortion, even when it endangers your life. You face ridicule, bullying, and even death if you do not conform to gender norms. And if you are born in extreme poverty, you may not live past your 5th birthday. This is the setting. These are the challenges. and this is what is happening today. But this does not detract the fact that we've achieved a great deal in breaking down barriers for young people to access SRHR services and information, creating policies that protect young people's rights, and constantly improving health programs, making them more youth-friendly. This serves as a reminder that a great deal more needs to be done. Who knows? You may meet a person who will change your life, who is influential enough to be a stakeholder, a president, a CEO, or a volunteer. This is where youth and adult partnership comes in. Youth and adult partnership and collaborative work within communities, governments, and organizations that include young people in consultation, in organization, implementation, monitoring, are raising a generation of leaders and advocates that have the work experience equivalent of a bachelor's degree in sexual and reproductive health and rights. I've been in the field of sexual and reproductive health longer than I've been in college. I get no diploma for it, though. But I do carry it on my sleeve everywhere I go. And no young person should ever be ashamed of the fact that he knows a ton about sexual and reproductive health and rights. No young person should be shamed that he knows how to use a condom, or how pills work, or how pregnancies happen. Not by their peers, and not from adults. In IPPF, our system puts young people on the boards that govern the organization. This is a requirement. It's an institution imposing upon itself a promise that young people must be involved in all levels of the program for sexual and reproductive health and rights. And this has the added benefit of providing young people with a bird's eye view of how programs and policies work within a large organization. I'm a proud example of that. And the youth here that you see today, who have been volunteering and advocating for SRHR in a span of time that took longer for them to get a college education, are an unequaled resource in advocating for sexual and reproductive health and rights. I encourage you to take a look at the young person sitting next to you. That young person will probably be the plenary speaker for the 16th or 17th APC SRHR. Next, youth-friendly services. This is a more nuanced approach in ensuring that young people are unafraid to go to your clinics and to your counseling centers. Young people, unlike adults, face stigma and discrimination because of their age. We're seen as incapable of making right choices. But at the same time, we're not given the information to make right choices. Youth-friendly services for health services, counseling, access to contraception, family planning are an important step in meeting young people halfway. Not every young people is empowered or is courageous enough to step into a clinic where he or she may be prejudged for his or her life choices. They say, no, you shouldn't be learning about contraception at such a young age. No, I'm not going to give you a condo. And the responsibility of an adult in that situation is so grossly unattended that we cannot help but feel that this young person's rights are ignored and betrayed. Peer education has also paved the way for empowering young people to begin the essential journey of better reproductive and sexual health. A long due thanks to the researchers and academics who built the framework for effective peer education. This presents an endlessly nuanced approach to approaching young people in diverse settings. You have young people living with HIV and AIDS, reaching out to other young people living with HIV and AIDS. You have young transgenders reaching out to other young transgenders. You have young people in poverty reaching out to other young people in poverty. Because when you're caught between the prejudices of the past and discrimination from your parents, your loved ones, from the community, young people turn to those who understand us best, our friends. They are health information desks, counseling and support centers in one. And they're as connected and as mobile as we are. And if I may add to our development partners, they're paid in the lives they change, but also in free coffee and snacks. They're essentially low cost or no cost at all, and they will continue to be peer educators for the rest of their lives. And we see this in times of crisis. BOFA, Hayan, Quetzana, Nesa, and Parma have cost us over 1 trillion pesos in damage and immeasurable human suffering, scarring an entire generation of young Filipinos. And in our vulnerability to climate change, we find the spirit of young people is unbreakable, hopeful, compassionate, and waterproof. Quite recently, UNFPA honored a young friend, Ms. Anzaira Rojas, for her work in humanitarian crises. I encourage you to go to her presentation. We find that young people are more durable than stone and steel. And no humanitarian response is complete without them. They are there in refugee centers, consoling young people, gathering data. They are there at donation centers, repacking food, water, clothing. They are the engine behind the humanitarian response. And they should be recognized. Because they're not just risking their lives in these areas, but they're putting in the time and effort that represents an unimaginable sacrifice, considering the fact that they've also been affected by these disasters. It takes a great deal of courage to stand up when you have nothing and to help another person. Next. Right here at home, the Philippines leads the world in social media use and penetration. Everyone has at least 2 mobile phones, a Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram account. In the words of Zoe Barnes, when you talk to one young person, you're talking to 1,000. And when one young person talks, 1,000 young persons are talking to you. So listen well to Kate Gilmore's maxim, shut up and listen. Well, we see young people here across countries and across time zones, teleconferencing long before they came here. virtual handshakes and forming friendships long before they've actually met. And their expertise, where there are places that have none, have helped shape their views and helped make collaborative efforts across the region. That is the story of one young person with an internet connection and a group of friends across the world. So, where does that lead us? It means that we start listening to young people. And if you can imagine a low-cost or no-cost solution to the problems of SRHR, imagine what a young person could do with a small grant, with a seed fund. What can he achieve with that, when he can achieve so much more with nothing? Thank you very much.